Hey folks, welcome back to the Leeds Gamer. There is a possibility that Tottenham Hotspur may get relegated from the Premier League. And so, with that heavily expensively assembled squad, who stays if they go down to the Championship? And who's gonna go? Let's have a look. And I'm also going to put in a little possibility as to where some of these players may go. So, let's have a crack at this. And I could be completely wrong with all this. This is just for a bit of fun, really. Nothing's been decided yet. But this is the Spud's official website. So, let's have a look. Starting with Vicario. He's bloody crap. He is one of the worst goalkeepers I've seen in Premier League. Says he's from Udine, so why not have a return to your hometown there? Go back to Udinese. If that's where it came through in the first place. But yeah, go sign for Udinese. That'd be about the right kind of level for Vicario, I reckon. Dragusin. Now, I've heard a lot of Spurs fans saying that Dragusin's one of the worst centre-backs they've got. So, how about a move to Romanian big club Steaua Bucharest, or something like that? I don't know. On the flip side, I've heard quite a few of them seem to think that Kevin Danso's a reasonable player. For that reason, I wouldn't necessarily send him back to the Austrian Bundesliga, but how about a move to the German Bundesliga? Oh god, I don't even know who's doing alright apart from Munich and Dortmund. I don't know. Let's see. Who's the Red Bull in Germany? It's Leipzig, isn't it? How about Red Bull Leipzig for Danzo? There you go. That'd be an alright move, wouldn't it? Alright, hold on 1 second. There you go. Right. Moving on to the next trio. Who have we got? João Palhinha. Yeah. He could go back to the Portuguese league, because isn't he getting on a little bit? Like, he's at least in his 30s now, isn't he? So, how about a move to one of Portugal's big three? Porto, Benfica, or even Sporting Lisbon themselves? Yeah. That'd be about right, I think. Xavi Simons, he's relatively young, Simons, isn't he? So, I don't think he stays. I don't think he goes back to the Eredivisie either. I think he's a bit young for that. He might go back there maybe when he reaches 30 or something. Does he get picked up by another Premier League team? He's that highly rated. I don't think he's amazing right now, but tell you what, I think he might like to stay in London. Is it the kind of player that Chelsea would snap up? Because Tottenham will demand a lot of money. Chelsea's obviously got the money. But he'd be going to Chelsea as a backup. I don't think he'd get in the side straight away or anything like that. So, yeah, I wonder if Chelsea would take a punt on him. If not, then one of the lower London clubs, so like a Fulham or a Crystal Palace maybe, where he can, he'd still be one of the standout players at that kind of level. Moving on to Bissouma. Now, at one point, he was very highly rated. I think his stock's dropped since. All of these players' stocks will have dropped. I think Bissouma could probably do a job at a mid-table, like a mid-table Premier League team, maybe. And again, a bit like a couple of these players. Maybe Bissouma goes to another London club, so maybe a Fulham or a Crystal Palace, something like that, or a Brentford. Yeah. Yeah, something like that. Right. Oh, here we go. Richarlison. Absolutely overrated is this guy. I don't think he stays in the Premier League. He's not going back to his native Brazil, that's for sure. But it's all about who's going to spend the money on him. I think that maybe a move to La Liga. Yeah. Maybe a move to La Liga, or maybe France, maybe League One. So maybe like if he goes to France, it could be somewhere like maybe Marseille or Monaco. I don't think he'd get in PSG. Albeit PSG would have the money. If he was to go to La Liga, maybe Atletico Madrid, but he'd be a backup there. I don't know. I don't think it'd be good enough. Valencia, if they've got the money, but have they? I'm not so certain. Maddison. Now, as things stand, Maddison has had a very serious injury that's kept him out for most of the season, as far as I know. And it looks like Coventry are actually going to be promoted. Now, if Coventry get promoted, obviously they're not going to have the money to be able to splash out on buying Maddison, but I wonder if maybe Maddison opts to go for a loan move to Coventry. I wouldn't rule it out completely, I don't think. But if he still has any kind of, big game time left in him, then again another mid-table team. Maybe something like an Everton. Something like an Everton might be kind of a Maddison-y type move. Yeah, alright, I'll go with that. Tell's a bit like Simons for me. He's one of these young players that was obviously very highly rated and quite heavily bought for, but basically hasn't been anywhere near good enough. So he's from France. Do I see him going back to League One? Not initially, I don't think. Bit like Simon's not going back to Eredivisie straight away. I think he'd probably go back to France eventually. So maybe, yeah, possibly a move to La Liga. Again, really depends on who's got the cash. Like a lot of these players aren't going to go to like Serie A, for example, apart from maybe Vicario, who came from there anyway, because they haven't got a lot of money in Italy right now. But again, you could see the likes of Simons and Tell going to either mid-table Premier League teams or potentially one of the other top 5 leagues in Europe. But if they go elsewhere, they're only going to be backups. They're not going to be first teamers, I don't think. So with Tell, I mean he's young, isn't he? Like him and Simons are young, so they're not really going to want to move very far, are they? You could just imagine again any of those other London teams that are not in the big bunch. But again, maybe again, is he the kind of player that Chelsea, would Chelsea want to snap up Simons and Tell? Because that's what they do. They play a pool a lot of young players, don't they? So, I don't know. Maybe something like that. Who's on this next row? Destiny Udogie. What a bloody name that is. Destiny Udogie. Right, where does he go? I mean, I would doubt that he would actually go back to his hometown of Verona, as they're not, you know, they kind of yo-yo between Serie A and Serie B, don't they? So maybe somewhere like Atalanta, possibly, because they're one of the teams that are actually doing quite well, aren't they? But they're not like a Juventus or a Roma or a Lazio or an Inter or an AC, are they? So yeah, one of teams that's not one of the big five or big six, but one of the Serie A, one of the mid-table Serie A teams. Archie Gray, now this is still something I find a bit weird about Archie Gray, right? Like, because his whole family's based in Leeds, albeit again quite a few of the family members are originally from Scotland. But he was randomly born in Durham. But as everybody knows, he came through the Leeds United youth ranks. So there's only one team that Archie Gray could go back to, and that is Leeds United. Come home, Archie. We'd welcome you back, lad. We'd welcome you back. Yeah, that's the only team Archie would have to come back to. Come back to Leeds United. Right, Lucas Bergvall. Now apparently he's quite young as well. He's from Sweden, so he's not going to go back to Allsvenskan, is he? Nah, probably. You know what? I reckon Brentford or Brighton. Brentford or Brighton. They like bringing through young players, don't they? Especially Brentford, right? This is a very Brentfordy move actually, because Brentford's still around the London area, and they like their young Scandinavian players. Yeah, I think Brentford for Bergman. Yeah, makes sense. One of Spurs' red card machines, Mr. Romero, loves the colour red. Hint, hint. Nah, I'm kidding with that one. Argentina, so he's not going to go back to Argentinian League, that's for sure. Albeit they've got a couple of really good clubs over there, haven't they? Your River Plates and your Boca Juniors and Newell's Old Boys and there was one other that came to mind that are pretty good and I've just forgotten. But you get the idea. So yeah, he's not going to go back there. Not yet, anyway. He is the kind of player that probably would go home. He'd probably go and play for Cordoba. Actually, I'm pretty sure Cordoba's got a team in Argentina. But no, I think Romero. Don't think he's done enough to really attract teams in the Premier League, to be honest. And I don't think. No, he's. I reckon Romero goes. I think he probably goes to La Liga. Yeah. One of the mid-table teams in La Liga. Let's say. Somewhere like maybe a Real Betis or a Celta Vigo. Something like that. Middle at La Liga. There or thereabouts. If those two teams are kind of in the middle. I haven't checked the divisions, the other European divisions. I don't know who's where these days. Moving on to Solanke. Well, he ain't going to go back to Reading because they're not doing very well. so that's out. But again, he's obviously London based into it. Or not, I mean, Berg's just near enough London, isn't it? What the hell? So how about a West Ham? If West Ham have the money to actually get him. He's another one that I would expect to stay in one of the London clubs. So he could probably squeeze his way into like a West Ham. Or again, maybe maybe Fulham actually, because how long's Jimenez got at Fulham? He might go back to Mexico actually. Yeah, how about Fulham? Yeah, that'd make sense. Right. Mohamed, is that Kudus? His surname's been wiped off the side there. I'm assuming it's Kudus. Well, he ain't going to go to Ghanaian League, that's for sure. Kudus. Now, he previously played for West Ham, didn't he? Moved to Spurs. When he's not injured, actually looks a decent player. So probably another London club. He could probably. Does he fit the mould at Crystal Palace? They like to sign young wingers, don't they? Is Kudus still relatively young? I'm not sure. But they probably have to replace what's his face? Oh, I can't remember the name now. Because they replaced Eze with Esse, and that didn't really work out. So Esse's been playing in Palace's under 21s. I know this because he played against Leeds under 21s this season. So maybe Kudus should be the long-term replacement for him, especially now that they've got Strand Larsen up there with Mateta and whatnot. Bit of a target man. Kudus would like to get down that wing and get some crosses in, wouldn't he? So yeah, maybe a Palace. Again, would suit. Quite possible. He obviously likes it in London because he's already played for West Ham and played for Spurs, so he likes his London clubs. So that would make sense. Who's on this next row here? Dejan Kulusevski. Now this fella, before he got injured, did look pretty useful, that's to be said. Yeah, looked decent. But he's not been around for ages because of a very long-term injury. Kulusevski then. I think he gets snapped up by the Premier League. I think he showed enough originally. Again, maybe like an Everton. Yeah, I think maybe someone like an Everton, he might do all right there. Gallagher, I mean they've literally only just brought him in January, I think, haven't they? And already he looks like a sack of spuds, which is ironic because spuds, I don't know, makes sense to me. He ain't gonna want Championship. He's just been playing for Atletico Madrid, for Christ's sake. But has he really done enough to prove that he can play at any kind of particularly high level? I don't know. Is it the kind of player that maybe somewhere like Brighton would take a punt on? Maybe. I don't know. Again, if he likes the London life, then he'd probably join one of the umpteen different London clubs that there are. He could maybe fit in at West Ham, actually. Maybe. I don't know. Pedro Porro. Again, one of their slightly better players, I would have said. And again, don't get me wrong, there's no amazing players on this list. I could see Porro either staying in the Premier League or going back to La Liga, I would say. So maybe if he stays in Premier League, if he stays in the Premier League, so I don't think he signs for any of the big boys, but I don't know, you get into somewhere like Villa. And then again, the Villa like Matty Cash and whoever plays on left these days. Maybe a Villa or an Everton or something like that. Unlike some of these others, I don't think he's completely connected to London, so I think he could have a move up north in the country. Either that or go back to Spain, maybe to like a Valencia or something like that, perhaps. Yeah, something like that. Alright, who's next? Jed Spence. Ugh, man, he's got an attitude problem. And weirdly, a slightly talented player when he can be bothered. Now, this might come as a bit of a surprise, but like, would Spence stay? Slight possibility that he would stay, but it's very slight, very tiny chance. Otherwise, yeah, somewhere like a West Ham. Again, he is London based, so he'd be quite happy staying in London, London life and all that kind of thing. So yeah, probably a West Ham or would he fit in at somewhere like Brentford? Yeah, possible. Audibert, Frenchman. Sure, he was on the books at Burnley before he signed for Tottenham. Weirdly, I could see Audibert going back to the French league. I don't know why. I don't think his stock has been all that amazing that he would automatically get a Premier League move. Like, he's not a bad player. He's got a little bit of flair about him when he's not injured. Maybe he'd go to one of the newly promoted clubs, like, if it ends up being like a Coventry or a Middlesbrough or, someone of that nature, possibly. Papamata you get a lot of the Senegalese players going into the French league, so maybe yeah. So Sarr could go like to a Marseille or a Monaco, something like that. I think Marseille. That might work. Who's next on this list? Rodrigo Bentancur. From Nueva Helvetia, wherever the hell that is. I've got no idea. I don't know. I can see him going to French league actually. I don't think he'd stay in the Premier League. No, I don't think he'd stay in the Premier League. So yeah, possibly French league for him. I think possibly, maybe. Yeah, again, it's some like a Monaco or a Marseille. I think, yeah, maybe even like a Lille. Are Lille still doing all right? Yeah, maybe Lille. I don't know. Kinski, backup goalkeeper. I think is he still relatively young, Kinski? He's obviously been a backup to Vicario. Originally from Prague. I think he's too young to go back to somewhere like Sparta Prague, isn't he? Or Slavia Prague. Czech Republic. I mean, like, is he the kind of player that if he was offered first team football in the Championship that he would possibly stay? He possibly would. But I don't think Tottenham would rely on a kid in the Championship. So I think he could get a move to like a Coventry or a Middlesbrough. Yeah, probably like a loan spell somewhere like that. Yeah, I think he'd get a loan to any one of the three teams that comes up. I think. Yeah. Ben Davies. Now this is a borderline one. He feels like he's been at Spurs for yonks, even though he's not from there. He's not from London at all. He's completely Welsh. But Yeah, where would Davies go? Would he stay? He's one of them because I think he might be about the same as his shirt number. He might be about 33 now. He's definitely in his 30s. I know that much. And he possibly would stick around. You know, he'd probably stick around as club captain and still play quite regular in the Championship. I would think. Um, but if he was to go, I mean, he'd be a very useful pickup for any of the three teams getting promoted. So yeah, I'd go with that. He'd probably go to one of those. I don't think that he'd go to another London club just out of respect to Spurs. I think he's one of those that probably would respect Spurs a little bit. So you know, if he doesn't stay at Spurs, I don't think he goes to another London club. So he'd probably go to. He don't fit the profile at Leeds because they don't go for anyone in the 30s, and they like all big dudes, don't they? So he won't really fit in at Leeds. If they stay up, maybe Nottingham Forest, possibly somewhere like that. Get an experienced head in there. Yeah, something like that, I think. Van der Ven. Well, he don't go back to Holland, but he's another one like Romero that loves a bit of a red card, doesn't he? What an idiot. And the fact that he's ignoring Igor Tudor, like, deliberately, it just feels scandalous to me, does this? So, Van der Ven, I could see him being picked up by, because he's still, like, youngish, isn't he? I could see, like, a Bayern Munich or a PSG, maybe Atletico Madrid, you know, like, so one of the bigger teams picking him up. You know, whether he actually gets into the first 11 or not is another matter. But I could actually see one of the bigger teams thinking, right, Van der Ven looks like, you know, possible, you know, regular in the Holland international squad and all this kind of thing. So yeah, maybe you know, he's probably one of the more expensive assets that they can get quite a few million for. Souza from Brazil. I think he's still young, so yeah, I don't think he's going to go back to Brazilian league just yet. Maybe a move to Portugal. One of the big three in Portugal, I think. I think he'd probably suit that quite well. Randall Kolo Moani, originally from France. Yeah, again, just one of the middle French teams. Yeah, probably go with like a Lille again, or something like that, I think. And Brandon Austin, who, as far as I'm aware, actually came through the Tottenham ranks, and despite being in his mid to late 20s, he's still at Tottenham. He is the one player who I think would stay. And I think he'd be their number one goalkeeper for the new season. I think they'd actually rely on him. I think they might promote him. I think they might promote him as first choice, just so that they don't have to spend money on the new goalkeeper. Like, if they got relegated to Championship and Brandon Austin at the age that he is can't become their first choice goalkeeper, then realistically he's got to move then, hasn't he? And because he's hardly played anywhere of any note and hasn't really got that many games for Tottenham at all anyway, I think he probably just, I mean, he either stays as second choice or he goes to a, again, would he be good enough to be snapped up by one of the clubs that would just be coming up from the Championship? Maybe. Yeah, there we go, really. But he's the one player out of this entire squad that might actually stay. That's crazy, isn't it? So yeah, what's your thoughts, folks? Do you think that these players will move? Do you think any of them will stay? Put your thoughts in the comments. But I'll leave it there. Big thank you for watching. Do please hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content. Do please subscribe to the channel. I would love to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of this calendar year, if at all possible. So do please subscribe if you haven't done already, and do please like and hype the video. In the meantime, have a good one. See you next time. Bye for now.